Doug Higgins with Havitar Geospatial, and today we are taking a look at Agisoft Metashape. So this is one of the newest photo processing softwares that I have been using. It is generally regarded as the best for photogrammetry, and I am just going to open up here a project that I've been working on. So I'm going to show you, let's see here, edit it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to show you first the output, that was generated from this, and then I'll show you how I got there. So this is Cali Comfort Barbecue down in Spring Valley, and this is a three-dimensional textured mesh that I created for a friend that owns this restaurant. And so, you can see here the textures are pretty good. The mesh itself is pretty good. The corners are sharp. It takes a little while to get, these areas, under eaves correctly rendered. And over here, this is their parking lot. I'm just going to move down there and take a look here. So this is the parking lot for Cali Barbecue, and you can see the fences came in pretty nicely. From the sky, these were taken using a 20 megapixel camera on a Mavic 3 Enterprise drone. So they're not perfect, but they're pretty darn good. Okay, so now how did we get here? So I am going to start a new chunk here and show you how I did it from the beginning. So the workflow here, first we have to add photos. And so I am going to go to the Canon Photos folder, which is where I stored all these photo files. And these, I'm sorry. The first place I'm going to go is to add photos from the DJI files. And so I flew 3 missions here, 2 LiDAR missions, which I'm not going to go through today, and then these were from the Mavic 3. So we're going to go Control A, select all of those, and open. So those are loading right now. So the next thing so there's 171 photos. You can see that there's 222 photos in the final photo set. That's because I have another 51 photos that I took with a Canon R5C full frame camera, and I aligned those later for better texture. And so first we're going to show you, this is the back of the restaurant, from a 45-degree oblique mission. Really quickly, I will show you in the final set, where all these were aligned. Let's go to the mesh, and I will show you how I flew this. So here we are again at the final model, and if I turn on the cameras here, you can see exactly where these photos were taken. And so it looks like we have one erroneous photo here. I don't know how this one got up high, but while I'm here, I guess I can show you how to fix that. So first we are going to go here, and this is the erroneously placed camera. So we are going to reset the alignment on that, and you can see it disappeared from here, and then we can go to align selected cameras. So we're going to stay in this view and just see if it pops in where it should be. Okay, so we can see now this little red edge down there means that camera has been relocated. So that will help the final photo set. Now what you're looking at here in this layer, these are all of the drone shots that were taken using the Mavic 3 Enterprise drone. And I'm going to go slowly around here so you can see how this works. So as the Mavic 3, this was done in smart oblique mode on the Mavic 3 Enterprise. So as the drone approaches from this direction, it takes 45-degree angles as it approaches on each grid path in both directions. And then as it gets closer in here, you can see it's taking a 45-degree forward, a 90-degree down, and it will take 45-degree backwards as well. And so, these photos are on the same path, and these ones are taken backwards, onto the site. And this particular site is too small, to warrant the 45 forward, 90 down, and 45 backwards in quick succession. So here it takes 45 approaching, 45 approaching, 45 approaching, 90, 90, 90, and then 90 back, and 45 down, 45 down, 45 down. And so I have done bigger sites where that smart oblique mode is really amazing. It'll do 45 forward, 45 to the side, 45 to the other side, 90 down, and then 90 forward, and then 45 forward. So it's taking a photo every quarter second or third of a second or so. But again, these are the aligned photos in the final photo set. This whole set, was taken with the Mavic 3 Enterprise drone, and then this set, was taken on the ground using my Canon R5C camera and aligned using markers in a way that I'll show you next. And so let me close up this processed set, and the way that we process this, we go back to this chunk 2. These are the source locations of the cameras. You can see that the angle has not been oriented yet because these photos have not been aligned. So we're going to go ahead and align this. Process, align photos. I am using high, not highest, because high will use the full resolution of the photos. Highest actually increases the resolution of the photos to try and gain better better resolution in the final photo set, but it also, in doing that, it's very processor intensive, so it takes a long time. And I'm using generic pre-selection and source for the data, because the source data, this was flown using GPS and RTK, so this will have good source information on where these camera locations were taken. The recommended photo settings for this type of project are 40,000 key point limit and 10,000 tie point limit. I can do that. My computer will support more, and this is a relatively small site, so I'm not too concerned about using the higher tie point limit. This is just what generated a better result for me. But if you have a very flat site, you can use fewer. This one is a bit complicated because there's a lot of different buildings and a lot of different textures. So I just want to make sure I've got enough, at the end of the day, to align these. I'm also going to need to do alignment on the ground photos, against the aerial photos set. And the ground photos have a lot higher resolution than the air photos do. And so I'm going to want a lot of point cloud points when I align the terrestrial photos with the aerial photos. And so I'm using just a little bit higher numbers than normal. And so I'm going to go ahead and process this. And so I won't make you all watch, while I do this, but it can take a while. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause this, and I'm going to cancel this actually, and then come back in a little bit. Okay, so we are going to pretend now, that this chunk 2 has been aligned as it was in chunk 1, and I'm going to switch back over to this processed set, turn off the cameras, and show you what I do next. So when you have processed this, you'll have a tie point map, that looks something like this. And so you will get outlier data, above and below your photo set. These are blue sky points, that were aligned. Now, I'm guessing these were created because we had that one image that was out of alignment with the rest of the images. And so it is possible that that one was oriented up in this direction. Either way, you don't need any of these outlier points. You don't need any of the ones below this. And Agisoft has a lot of selection tools to assist in getting rid of those erroneous points. And so I've already cleaned up a lot of this, but I'm just going to show you really quickly the fastest way that I've found to do this. I select the layer that I want, once I get my tie points in a condition that I like. And I go up here and I use the rectangle selection tool to select those. Then I come up here and I go to invert selection. And so you'll see now these are deselected, and everything else that was outside all of this noise, I'm just going to click delete, and those disappear. And so now the tie points that I have are only the ones that are tighter, to the site. Now these ones are a little bit out there too, so I'm just going to click those, get rid of those, and all of this blue is probably noise as well. You can switch back to the arrow tool and twirl around, to kind of see the context for those. It looks like all those blue points here are up above a building. This looks like a residential area next door, and so it's hard to imagine that those are part of trees or anything like that. So I don't think they're adding a lot to the alignment. So I am going to go ahead and get rid of those as well, and that should clean up our tie points a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to assume that these tie points are clean. There's a few other ones here that we could clean up, but that's not going to make a huge difference. What we are going to do now is go to, we've aligned the photos, and now, we are going to build actually, the first thing to do is go to camera and optimize cameras. And so optimizing the cameras, will reorient the cameras based on the new tie points, not those old ones, that were gotten rid of. So nothing should change here, but before we do that, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to save this project as, I'm just going to say Cali Barbecue 3, and it will take a while, to do that, so I am just going to pause and okay, and we are back, and this is the updated tie point model with the optimized camera locations. And so if we turn on the cameras, we'll see what we're looking for, which is basically all of these drone photos are in the right place, and then we have all of these terrestrial photos that appear to be in the right place as well. There's something, yeah, it looks like there's just a blue car over here, but yeah, these look like the pattern in which they were actually taken. All of them, yeah, so I was in the parking lot, I started and took all these photos and then went around the front of the restaurant. So this is what we want to see, and all of them are also about 90 degrees, which is good, because that was the way that I took most of them. So it looks like that's in the right place. So now we have the photos in the right place. The alignment is good. We have a tie point cloud that we like, and that means we are ready to build the point cloud. So this workflow area is built in an intuitive way, where you've got align the photos, you can build the point cloud, And if you need to, you can build tie points, as well. And you can do all kinds of things with the point cloud once it's created. But we are done with the alignment and the tie points, so now it's time to build a point cloud. So we're going to go to build a point cloud. We want to use depth maps, not the model, because the depth maps come from the photos directly. And I've got ultra high on here. High should be fine, but when we do this, we want the best result that we can get, but that's balanced against time. So I am using this for a showcase, so I'm using ultra high, but high should be just fine for most people, and should be fine for you as well. Now depth filtering, that can be on mild or moderate. I don't use this extensively. I did use moderate here because I noticed that sometimes I get point clouds below the surface level that I'm looking for. That often happens when you have reflective areas, like ponds or rain puddles, that kind of thing. But here, moderate or mild should be fine. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to build the point cloud, depth maps, ultra high and moderate, point colors and point confidence. I've got these checked. Point confidence is not a huge one, but it'll help with reporting later. And point colors gives a colorized point cloud, which is just more intuitive. So we're going to click OK, and then that's going to go, and I'm going to pause it. Okay, and we are back. So this is what a processed point cloud looks like off of that photo set. And you can see our photos are still where they were before. And so I have not much cleanup to do. I've done a little snipping here like we did before, just in the interest of time. But you can see one thing that I had to do here was clean up this under this eave. There was a little bit, and it's a cumbersome process to select this, and then you have to come around and deselect everything that was selected behind it. But you can use that using the this tool, and then the shift key removes a selection that you've made. So for instance, if you wanted to just select all that area, this is going to be fast and dirty, but you might just select everything under that eave. Now that creates a square, but it creates a square through all the dimensions. And so as you move this around, you see that not only has it selected under the eaves, but it's also selected this whole strip, down here. And so to deselect that, you go back to the selection tool and click Shift, and then it will deselect, that portion. And so you don't want anything except what's under the eaves, and then you also want to exclude this area over here because that's the front texture for the rooftop. And so we've deselected all that, and then you can just press delete and it'll get rid of everything under the eaves. I've already done that, so I'm going to press escape and zoom back out. Now the next thing to do is to orient those terrestrial photos. We haven't done that yet. We've got in this theoretical scenario, we've got all these, all of the drone shots done, but we haven't aligned these yet. So the next thing we would do is we would import photos, so we'd say add photos. I have those, those other photos, the 51 photos in my Canon drive. So you just click open that and it would import them. I'm going to cancel because I've already imported them. And then these will all show up here, and these are the full frame Canon cameras. So the next thing you need to do from the aerial set is to align these photos. And the way that we do that is with markers. I have already put markers, in here, so I'm going to show you where I put them. Markers are this little flag icon. And so these are the markers that I needed in order to align all these photos. And so I am going to turn photos off just so I can show you a close-up of the points that I picked and the order in which I picked them. So the first one is point 1, and that you can see is the edge of this, this rooftop. And the reason I picked point 1, 2, and 3 as the top of the rooftops is because those points are going to be points that are picked up by both the terrestrial cameras and the aerial cameras. So they've already been aligned and georeferenced based on the aerial set, and now I'm picking those points because I can pick them also on my Canon cameras. And so I've already done that, and you can see where some of those points are here. Point 1, recall, is the front of the restaurant. And so, here I can drag that over, to be a little closer to the front. These, you put them in to start. So I would select, an area where I see a marker, say the top of this ADA sign, and then I would just say add marker, and it would place a marker on this photo. Because these photos are already aligned, that marker would also show up on all the other photos, and so I'm not going to do that on this set. But the way that it works is you place a marker on a point in a photo that has already been aligned, or where you want to align. And in this case, this is one of the photos. This is image 1407. And I've moved that point over to the very front of this rooftop edge. And so when you go to an aligned set, you're looking for that point. And so you can see this point 1 is right at that rooftop edge, and so this is where you would place a marker. And so you would place marker, and because 1 is already here, it's not in this list, but in this aligned photo, you would place it somewhere here. So I'll show you what that looks like in these aligned sets. So I'm going to pick one other point here, let's say the vertex of this rooftop right at the edge here, and say add marker, or place marker, new marker. So point 11 is now placed at the top of the rooftop on the back side of the restaurant. And so when I go, this is in photo 1 of the DJI set. So when I go to photo 2 now, you're also going to see point 11 in photo 2. And these have already been aligned, so you should see point 11 start popping up. It's outside the range of this photo, but as I move around, it's just barely out of the range of that photo. So I'm hoping one of these next ones, I'll pick it up. Okay, so here we go. So in this photo, this was taken on the ground, and this point 11 showed very close, but it needs to be moved up to the top there so that it matches the rooftop, and that will give us a better triangulation result. Okay, so point 11 again is just a little bit off of the top of the roof, so we're going to move it back. And then here it'll show the interpolated area because it is guessing on a point cloud, and that's about the right place, but let me just see. We're looking for areas where we can actually see it. Now, point 1, this is in the right spot, and I just know from the other points that I placed, point 5 is in the right spot, right in the bottom corner, and point 7 is on the inside of the door jamb here on the entry door. And point 4, is supposed to be at the very bottom here. Usually close enough is fine, but if you want the best possible result, you want to make sure they are precisely where you want. And so now I've got enough here that I can go to detect markers, and I'm just going to use all of the same settings, that were pre-populated here, and it's going to detect the markers really quickly, and it may make some minor adjustments just based on the few tweaks that I've made. But now you should see all of these points on any of the photos that I open. There should, we'll just pick at random here. 1422, point 2 is in the right place at the corner. Point 6 is in the right place at the corner. 5's at the corner. 1 is just out of view on the corner here. And then point 3, if you recall, is the back side of the roof. So we're looking through this roof at point 3 and the rest of these points. So everything's correctly placed here. It does look like point 11, which is that new one that we added, is pretty close to the top. I'm not going to guess because I don't want to screw up the other photos, but that looks like it's in about the right place. Maybe just a millimeter down, but I'm not going to move it unless I can see it. And so if I go back a little bit, recall early in this set we had one of those photos that was pointing at the top. And we should be getting close now. There it is, point 11, still in the right place. Point 2's in the corner, 6, 1, and 5. Look like they are all in precisely the right location. That one's really close, but not quite. Okay, so that is the marker alignment. Now, an NA for not aligned is going to show up on all these photos when you import them. And then this was the first photo that I aligned. Actually, I take that back. I think the first photo that I aligned was the one that we were just looking at with the top corner. So I picked point 1 and point 2 based on these two rooftop corners, and this was the first one that I aligned. So I think I needed a couple of points, at least 2, probably 3, 4, or 5 points to align these correctly. And then once I got this aligned and everything else in the front of the restaurant aligned, I was able to pick just one point in the parking lot. And so the parking lot was where I started. And so this point 9, I just picked the bottom outside edge of the tire. And once I got, if I go back to the point cloud, or I'll just show you on the model. Okay, so once I got all of this area aligned with those first photos, because those are the most important, I came back over here and selected all of the photos that were taken from this parking lot area and aligned them using one point, and then they all auto-populated. And so after I aligned all of these, I put those markers in, and then you go right here and you click align, and it will process for some time, and then the result will be that you have all the aligned photos. So I'm going to assume now that we've got all the aligned photos, and that's interesting. My camera is, that's video. Okay, so we've got all our aligned photos. We have our tie points. We are looking at the textured mesh here for simplicity, but if we go back to our point cloud, this was where we were starting. And in this point cloud, this is good, but it is still kind of a skeleton view. And so we are going to want to turn that into a mesh. And so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up to workflow and say build mesh. And it's going to take a look at some of the parameters. Again, you want to pick depth maps. And you can choose high or medium depending on how fast you want to do. But I'm picking ultra high just because this is a demo project. And phase count, I just go high, on this, and then I decimate later, because what's important to me is getting the dimensional result correct, and then I can texture it. And then I calculate the vertex colors so that I am getting a colorized final product. And then I click OK, and this will start the alignment process. That's going to take a few hours, depending on what setting you pick for the quality and the face count. But I'm going to click cancel here just because I've already done this, and then we are going to go to our model. And so this model has already been populated. When it came up, it populated the entire area, and so I actually had to select this and invert the selection, and then delete everything around it to end up with this good square. But this is my square set with all of the photos aligned, and it's been texturized also. So once you get your result from the mesh, this was in pretty good shape. The only thing, like I mentioned earlier, is this area under here, and you want to make sure you delete that from your point cloud, and then reprocess it, so it'll pull from the best depth maps to get all those vents. Before that was just kind of a lumpy mess, but other than that, this all pulled in. It looked a little bit more like this side did before I texturized it, but you can see the windows came in really well, these vent stacks came in really well, and if I was doing this again, there are a few more photos that I would take. I would take a head-on photo of the front door, just because that needs to be higher resolution, and you can see the only photo sources that they had when they were processing this front door image were the oblique photos, which are taken at like a 45-degree angle to the door, which is a little bit suboptimal for generating the best textures. And so I would take one head-on with this door, one more head-on, in this direction, and then I would go back, and you can see I didn't take any from inside this patio area. And the patio area, it looked okay. If I were critiquing this, which I guess I kind of am, I took a few that were above. I just elevated the camera a little bit and took some snaps inside here, and it's a wide angle lens, so it did capture a lot of that. But I'll tell you from the top, what I missed is these textures are not as crisp as they could be. This oven, for instance, I think could be much better if I'd gone in here and I'd taken, a head-on photo. And I believe that this sign and the front door were other opportunity areas where, this was okay, again, not great, but when you're generating something for a commercial client, you want the sign to be crisp and clear. And so that's legible, which is, acceptable, not perfect. And so this door, I would take another one head on from the front, and then the sign, I would take one of the sign from this angle, and then again from this angle, just to make sure that that's really crisp. And I'd probably take a few more in here just to make sure that these textures rendered well. So this is the final product. It is, let me turn these off. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The rooftops are uniform. The signs are legible. The cars, are relatively lifelike, and it is dimensionally accurate. So if you come down to the street level, this is very, very, very close to what you would see from across the street, and these textures, are pretty great. So this was taken with the Mavic 3 Enterprise, which has a 20 megapixel camera and the Canon full frame camera from the ground. And so if I'd taken this with a P1, which I also have, that would be 45 megapixels from the sky, and that could afford an even better result for areas, like these textures on the ground, and the texture on the front and sides of the building. Um, but for a quick project, I'd say data acquisition on the outside of this, all in, took about 20 to 25 minutes, to get the full frame snaps from the ground and the drone route from the sky. And so that is my review for the Metashape workflow and using the DJI drone and the Canon camera. So thanks for watching, and I will walk you through the next thing I'm learning as soon as I'm on it. Thanks so much.